Hello, Romantics. I'm Sarah Gomez, author, romance lover, and host. You're listening to Romancing the Story, a podcast centered around writing, reading, and story structure, all with a twist of romance. We're at episode number 22, and today is a surprise episode about writers' retreats and author quickies. I wasn't sure I would have the opportunity to record the episode, but my writer girlfriends were all game after a glass of champagne, which we had on hand to celebrate a finished book and an amazing essay, both of which occurred during the retreat. I typically go on writers' retreats twice a year with most of the same ladies, adding new writers to the fold as they are able to join us. We go to the same spot by the lake every time. Something about the water just makes magic happen with words. I went to the retreat with two goals in mind: get more words down for my novella and focus on the podcast. I achieved both goals during the retreat and couldn't be happier. While we were there and the creative juices were flowing, along with the champagne, I really wanted to do a special recording that was a lightning round for writers. I wanted to know more about what each lady was working on, but for the sake of a romance podcast, we'll call them Quickies. So you'll be hearing a couple of quickies from authors on this episode. You'll hear 4 other authors, including Kimberly, Susan, Vanessa, and Chrissy. Some of them might sound familiar. Most of the writers have their own episode of Romancing the Story, where we talk about their books, so feel free to give them a listen to hear more about their individual writing journeys. I asked the same set of questions to everyone for consistency, and it also made things very interesting to hear different perspectives. By the way, links to all the authors' Amazon pages will be in the show notes. I also briefly mentioned Kim's Spotify list for her book, or as she renamed it, Spotify. That champagne hit differently during a quickie. Link to that will also be in the show notes. Romantics, I must confess, I learned about a 90s song called Detachable Penis. That's an actual song that I heard for the first time. If I have to know about it, I want y'all to know about it too. You're welcome. I will be answering all the questions myself at the end, because why not? Now, let's get to the good stuff. Okay, what is your name and what do you write?
I am Kimberly Packard, and I write women's fiction.
Perfect. And what are you working on at the Writers' Retreat?
So I am working on a new novel. Right now it's called This Time Around, and it is a story about a woman who 30 years after high school kind of has a panic attack and wakes up in her bedroom, started the senior year of high school all over again.
And that's women's fiction.
It is women's
right?
fiction, yeah.
Nice. And what is your favorite part of a writer's retreat?
Oh my gosh. Being with my girls, just the camaraderie of it. The fact that we all come with our goals, our squad goals, and we all not just meet them, we exceed our goals, and we just have fun doing it. And it's just the time together, because sometimes we might not see each other all the time. We talk all the time, we text all the time, but just to be there together and just the sisterhood of writing.
Exactly. And I like to hear too about I know I've been hearing about your book for a while, and hearing from that idea to seeing almost the novel come together, right?
My parking lot book from summer 2020 when, we wanted to hang out together, but we were afraid of getting each other sick and killing each other. So, when we found a parking lot, it's I just got to write something happy because the world is not happy right now.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it's been fun. I'm still working on that.
Yeah. So I remember hearing it as an idea, and now you're fully into it, just writing away. So how often do you go on writers' retreats?
Not often enough.
That's what Vanessa said.
Yeah. I think it's what most of us say. Right. I think the last one we did was about a year ago. Normally we try to do them a couple times a year. So hopefully we can kind of get back into that rhythm, because I know some of us have had job changes and kid stuff and parent stuff going on. And so, at least a couple of times a year is good.
I think that's a good number.
Yeah.
So, and would you recommend writers' retreats?
Absolutely. Especially if you just solo, it's better if you can find friends to go with because you cheer each other on, you bounce ideas off of each other. There's just no better way to be productive and have fun with your friends at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Having that community there, right, behind you to really help you with that writing.
Right. And, sometimes we have, some of us are stuck on things like I'm stuck in this scene. I can't get past the scene. And we just talk it out. And suddenly it's like, there we go. Big idea. Done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then everyone else kind of knows what the story you're working on. So they kind of are able to help you along with that too.
Right.
It's such a good thing. Such a good feeling.
It's such a good feeling. Yes.
So now we have the fun round. So what music genre do you listen to when you write?
So I make a playlist for each of my books. So for this time around, I am kind of writing what I know. So the main character goes back to the early 90s. So I have a playlist that is most of the music I listened to back in 1993 or 94. So that's kind of fun. But usually it's alternative, kind of just whatever fits the character.
Right, exactly. And I remember you introduced me yesterday to what? Detachable Penis?
Detachable Penis. It is a classic from probably 1992. Yes.
Nice. Nice.
Young Sarah learned something new this weekend.
I know I did. I have learned a lot this weekend. And is there a link to those playlists like on your website? Or anything?
They're on Spotify, and I should probably make that public, but I haven't yet, but I will.
Okay.
Figure it out.
Okay. So just in case anyone was curious about like, hey, I've read Dyers Club. I love that book. I'd love to hear what you were listening to at the time.
I do have a Dyers Club playlist, and that is that Spotify list. We've also had champagne tonight, guys.
Yes.
That Spotify list is public. So if you just look for Dyers Club in Spotify, you can find the playlist for that.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah.
What's a perfect writing day look like for you?
Oh, goodness. I wake up with the sun for 6:30, 7 o'clock, lots of coffee, lots of words, some great breaks with my friends, some walking, gotta get some movement in.
Yes, get those juices flowing, right?
Yeah. A nice cold front that comes through in the evening.
On the lake.
On the lake, yeah. So that's the other tip is water is creative. And so if we tend to do our writers' retreats near water. So pick a writer's retreat near a body of water.
Yep. And that's what we've learned also on this writer's retreat, that anything to do with water helps.
It helps with the brain.
It makes the magic happen.
Sure does.
What would you choose as your avatar mascot or spirit animal?
It would have to be a hummingbird. For one, they get to eat a bunch of sugar water and they fly around all day and burn 1 million calories. So, they got the metabolism. So that's cool, But also it's just the fact that, they're tiny, 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 but they see so much of the world. And I think that's just so cool. You get to flit around and you're not so big that you get noticed. So you kind of fly under the radar, but you get to see all the cool stuff.
Yeah. And you're so pretty. And
you're so pretty.
Yeah.
And
cute.
And you got this badass beak.
Right?
Right.
Exactly. What is the most challenging part of writing the opposite sex?
I've never really had a hard time writing the opposite sex. I feel like, most of the guys that I write, I don't know. I mean, someone could argue with me and go, no, you write girly men. But, I don't feel like I have trouble writing them.
Okay.
I think the key is to, make sure that they're as diverse as the male species is. So, there's definitely, the good guy, the narcissist, the guy who'll, do anything for you, that, all the different types of guys out there.
We were actually talking about that earlier, the Enneagram Test.
Yeah.
That could like something like that, a personality test.
Right.
Could maybe
do
help
it for your
prompt
character.
You.
Yeah. And that kind of helps get you into their mind. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't felt like I've really had any trouble with it. I don't like to write guys that are super actually, I was just writing a scene today about a guy who's kind of like this drunk asshole, and this is back in the 90s, and it was before the Me Too thing, and and it was like, God, I really kind of hate writing this, but you know what? That's what sometimes guys did back then because they didn't know any better, and not saying they know better today. Sometimes they still don't, but if a woman stands up now it's kind of like, yeah, he had it coming. And if you stand up then, it was like, So I do feel kind of weird writing that, because I feel like, well, I should make my men more evolved, but they're not. Because they're guys.
Well, yeah, especially in like a time capsule like
Right.
that at that point. So, yeah. And some people, you're completely right. Like, some people don't have a problem writing the opposite sex, but I know some people do. So, yeah, I've always felt like you had strong male characters in all your books. So,
thank you.
What's a great book that impacted you as a writer?
Actually, I think for this one, a book that I loved was Ona Out of Order. And I cannot remember the author's name off the top of my head, but she's fantastic. So look up Ona, O-O-N-A, Out of Order. Because what I loved about it is it's a story of a woman who experiences her life. It's almost like Quantum Leap. She leaps around her life. But what I loved about it is the author didn't explain the science of it. She didn't say, this is why this happens. You just go on this journey, and it makes you ask all these other questions. And that's what because I've always had this idea of a story of, if you could go back in time and see the world with your current experience, but as a teenager again, like, your teenage life, how would it be different? How would you be different? Are we the product of now, or is this us as always,
Right.
And so reading that book a couple years ago, I was like, I don't have to explain the science of it. I can just say, come with me, take a leap with me. Don't worry about how it works. Just trust me that it's going to work. And hopefully I can get us there.
Yeah. And you'll go on a journey with this character, right?
Right.
Yeah. Because for Una Out of Order, I never, I was too involved in the character.
Right.
To really.
I didn't care how she jumped or why she jumped.
Yeah.
I was just like, and I did not want that story to end. I kept
so
I read it in my Kindle, and I kept like, oh, there's got to be more. There's got to be more.
I know, yeah, and it was just so interesting.
It was
how she framed all of that.
Right. It was such a great story.
It really was. And how do you select names for your characters?
My main characters, I feel like they just show up with their names. They just kind of introduce themselves, like Josie. In my current book, she just like walked in and she was like, I'm Josie Berry, but when she gets married, it's Josie Gardner. And, so I know who she is. I know who her kids are.
Oh.
So I write in Scrivener, and one of the fun features of Scrivener is a name generator. So sometimes for like some of my lesser characters, like not even the supporting characters, like the red shirts if they were in Star Trek, I will go into the name generator, because sometimes that's kind of a fun way, like, oh, okay. And I may not even use like the tune that they put together, but I'll take that first name and that last name, and I'll just plug those together. Oh. So that's always a fun way to say, I got to name someone, but it doesn't have to be super significant.
Perfect. Yeah. And a great way not to get hung up on it either.
Right.
Because sometimes we can get hung up on the details.
Yeah.
But no, I love that. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great.
What is your name and what do you write?
My name is Susan Sheehey, and I write romantic suspense, adventures, romantic comedies, and just contemporary women's fiction.
And what are you working on at the Writers' Retreat?
I am working on, and actually have just finished, the Hollywood romance first book in a series. I don't know the title of it yet, but I've been working on that one for like 6 years, and I had such a hard time with it, but I finally finished it just today.
And you didn't expect it to be a series, right?
No. When I first started, I thought this was just going to be a standalone on its own. And as things developed and I realized I needed more side characters to help flesh out some of the plots, I realized they had a whole bunch of personalities and they wanted their own books too. So it's now a series.
And you think like 4?
I think there's going to be 4.
4 books in the series? Nice. What is your favorite part of a Writers' Retreat?
Oh my gosh. Other than the escape from my normal, everyday, mundane, motherhood, crazy, just life crazy, I get to hang out with some of the coolest people who are just like me, and they get me, and I don't have to explain myself. They just get it. So I love hanging out with them. And I also get most of my work done at Writers' Retreats. So
I know, right? That's like one of the best parts is kind of like actually getting to sit down and write. And
it's real productivity.
Yes, actually writing, yes. Brainstorming. How often do you get to go on Writers' Retreats?
I like to go to like 2 a year, although there have been, obviously with recent years, it's more like once a year. But I'd love to go more often than that because I get so much work done.
And would you recommend writers' retreats?
Absolutely. Now, writers' retreats with the right people. If you go to a writers' retreat with someone who doesn't understand what the real purpose is, or they keep distracting people, then you don't really get much work done, which is why it's really important you know the people you're going on a retreat with, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we have a fun round. What music genre do you listen to while you write?
Oh, I listen to, it's different for every series, but this series, believe it or not, I've been more into the soundtracks for like Lord of the Rings.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I'm weird like that. I get into a mode and I pick a movie that I listen to the soundtrack. One of the other books I did, I listened to the Oblivion soundtrack over and over and over again.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that one is a fantastic score.
That's a great one, yeah. So nothing with words necessarily, at least for this
Sometimes,
one. Okay.
But more recently, no, actually.
Okay.
No, just soundtracks.
Nice. What's a perfect writing day look like to you?
Oh, this writer's retreat. Honestly, that's my perfect writing day, where I don't have distractions. I don't have to stop in the middle of my day to go do the whole mom autism run thing where I've got to go pick my son up from this school, drop him off over here, pick my other son up and drop him off over there. I literally get to just focus on the storyline and the plotting and just write for the whole day. That's my perfect writing day.
Ah, fabulous. What would you choose as your avatar, mascot, or spirit animal?
Oh gosh. I have two. Some days I would be an owl. Some days I would be a dolphin.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, because I love
air
water.
and water. Yeah.
Yes. I like to fly and I like to swim.
What is the most challenging part of writing the opposite sex? Or do you find it challenging?
Oh, I think one of the most difficult scenes I had to write from a man's perspective was actually my Knights of Texas series, where I had to write a scene where it was the group of guys and they were bantering back and forth, but I didn't want it to come across as too aggressive or too stereotype. And I actually had to ask my husband for some advice on how this interaction between this group of guys would be, making it realistic, but without making it a cliche.
Right.
Yeah.
And considering all these different personalities, right, in the mix.
Yes.
So,
that was, I think, the most difficult time I had.
oh, that's a good point. What's a great book that impacted you as a writer?
Basically, Kathleen Woodiwiss. She introduced me to real steamy romance. And I absolutely fell in love with A Rose in Winter. It's my ultimate favorite romance book that's got steam in it. And I could never, if she was live today, I would love to meet her and just say, thank you, because you helped start me on my career.
Nice. And finally, how do you select names for your characters?
Oh, that's a good question.
We were talking about that today a little bit.
Yes. It's actually different. There are sometimes the names just, they come to me and I'm like, this is the person's name. There are other times where I literally have just the word name, right? Like name as my placeholder throughout the book until something is triggered either on a television show or another book I'm reading, or I just come across somebody's name that I'm like, oh, that one actually works. But it actually is different for each book on how I get introduced to the character's name.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. And I had no idea. There are some people I know that just, they don't have a hard time coming up with names at all, or they name their characters off of the friends and families that mean the most to them. To me, it's different for every character.
I could see that because I do that occasionally too, because sometimes, like you said, it comes like very intuitively. Like there is no other name that could have worked for this character. That's who they are.
Yes.
But then there's also times where it's just like there's a big old question mark because I don't know if I have that name right quite yet.
Yes.
For that character.
Although there was one time I was writing a series with Mia London where we'd gone to a book signing, and one of our little promos that we were doing was entering a giveaway or entering a contest where someone gets to pick the name of one of our supporting characters.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's what happened. And the person who won, she used her own name. Her name was Lene.
How fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And what a great little, kind of like contest to kind of hold with your writers.
Yeah.
Or with your readers. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks so much.
What is your name and what do you write?
Hi, I'm Vanessa Foster. I mainly write memoir, but I have also been writing essays and short stories, and I'm working on a young adult novel that has been in the works for probably about 6 or 7 years now.
Some good things take time, right?
Yes.
I'm with you on that one.
My memoir that is published took 20 years, so I'm hoping I can beat that the next time around.
There you go. There you go. What are you working on at the Writers Retreat?
Well, this weekend I've been working on an essay, and it's we were given a writing prompt, and the prompt was basically talk about a mistake that I have made that I'm glad that I made. Mm-hmm. A mistake that I'm glad I made. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And did it have a word limit on it?
No word limit. So it was all, kind of open, and I did get that done, and it's only 300 words, but I'm happy with it.
Yeah, but it was beautiful. And what is your favorite part of a writer's retreat?
Oh man, just being away from home, being with friends that I haven't seen in a while. There's not that call to do the laundry or the dishes or, take care of anybody else. It's just for me.
Right. Any of the distractions, right?
Right.
Every
Distractions are just, home is riddled with them.
Mm-hmm. How often do you go on writers' retreats?
A couple times a year if I can get away with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. If you can pry yourself away from the home.
Right. Fortunately, I have a wonderful husband who's very supportive, and he practically pushes me out the door.
Aww. That's sweet. And would you recommend writers' retreats?
Oh, absolutely. Anybody who's serious about writing needs to make it a priority and take time and just, give themselves that gift so that they can see what happens, away from the daily grind.
Yeah, right. You'd be surprised on how productive and how the flow will go.
Right. And I'm not one to generally set lofty goals for myself for a retreat. I don't even like to make lists because that is too much pressure.
No, that's fair.
So I don't make goals, but I kind of have a general idea of kind of what I want to get done, and I always meet it.
There you go. And you finished the essay.
I did.
So we're going to do a quick little fun round.
Okay.
So do you listen to music while you write? And if so, what kind of music?
I do not. I
Okay.
cannot listen to music or anything else. I'm one of those old school people that kind of needs silence.
Mm-hmm.
If not silence, just at least quiet and not too many interruptions.
Okay.
That's what works for me.
Exactly. Everyone has a little something different. So what's a perfect writing day look like for you?
Oh, man. Typically, I would like to start writing at 10 a.m. and write until about 2 p.m. and then go for a walk.
Nice. Yeah, there you go. Kind of break up your writing time a little bit. Mm-hmm. What would you choose as your avatar, mascot, or spirit animal?
Oh, you know what? I think I don't have one spirit animal. I think I have a whole family of woodland creatures that kind of follow me around. Aww. Is that silly? But no, I really feel like there's just a community of little loving creatures that are there for me.
That's so sweet. I love that. I love that idea. Yeah, that it's more than maybe just one.
Yeah, it's not a lion or a tiger or a bear or anything. I've got a little deer, a fawn and a rabbit and a squirrel and a chipmunk.
Yeah, just a little, like you said, a little family of woodland. Yeah, woodland creatures. What is the most challenging part of writing?
For me, it's just getting my butt in the chair and getting started. Once I get started, I'm generally pretty good. And then things kind of start flowing and I kind of grab words out of the air and just kind of wrangle them on the page. But just getting started sometimes is the hardest thing for me. Just kind of, that first word on a blank page.
Right. Like I feel like sometimes I'm intimidated just by the blank screen. And just by blinking cursor.
Right. And even if it's not page one of a new piece, it's kind of moving forward from where I stopped before. And I'm a serial editor.
Oh, yeah.
I write a page and then I go back and read it and edit it. And then I write another page and do the same thing over and over. And then I'll have 10 pages and I'll reread all of those and edit 10 pages.
Kind of like we were talking about earlier, like being like a perfectionist. To
Yes, that's where, it comes out for sure. Yeah, I wish I could be different, but this is who I am.
Right. And sometimes you just work with it, right?
Yeah, and it's taken me a while to figure out what kind of writer I am and what works for me. But and I try not to beat myself up for it, but that's just the reality.
And and that's half the battle, I think, is just finding out your process and what works best for you.
Exactly. Right. And then not second guessing.
Exactly. Exactly. What's a great book that has impacted you as a writer?
Oh, wow. Well, I write memoir, and so one of the first ones that really resonated with me, Liars Club, Mary Carr. I found it. Mary Carr, The Liars Club. And then The Glass Castle, Jeanette Walls.
Yes.
But yeah, I think probably the first one, though, was Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt.
Yeah.
So powerful. And the way that he was able to bring humor weave it in and out of tragedy, the tragedy of his childhood. It just made my soul sing. I mean, it was magical.
Wow.
And I wanted to write like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Still working toward that goal.
You'll get there. So you write memoir. So you use real people in your books, correct? You don't select names for other people, or do you
in my novel, yes. I in my YA novel that I told you I was working on.
Yes.
Yeah, funny. I am very deliberate and specific with choosing names.
Okay.
For that book, I'm choosing. I did a search for strong women, real women in Texas history. And then I'm using surnames of all those women for all of my characters in that book.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's some truth in everybody's name. And then I'm also working on a novel from a male POV. It's my first attempt at that. And just for fun, I'm using a combination of first and last names from the 1977 Dallas Cowboy Championship team. And so, there's Tony Dorsett and then, I don't know, Golden Richards. So I might have a character named Tony Richards.
Ah, gotcha.
So I'm just kind of play around like that.
Yeah, that's a fun way to kind of like playing with the names. Love
There's
that.
just so many names out there that, you can just kind of pick and choose.
Exactly.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah. And I love that they have like meaning behind them and everything like that too.
Right.
So well, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. What is your name and what do you write?
Well, I write under my initials. My name is Chrissy. It's not a big secret, but I do write under CA SZAREK. And I write different genres of romance. I write romantic suspense, epic fantasy romance, and Scottish Highlander time travels. Some of them are just historical fantasy, and some of them have time travels.
And what are you working on at the Writers Retreat?
I'm actually working on the next book in my, it's a spin-off series from my original trilogy. It's called Highland Essence. The series name is Highland Treasures. And like I said, it spins off of Highland Secrets. And it's just the next book in the series. Basically, I wrote about a couple couples and now I'm writing about their kids because it's fun.
Nice. What is your favorite part of a Writers Retreat?
Oh, I think the camaraderie, and I think that there's something to, if you're stuck, your friends are right there to help you brainstorm or work through it. But I also think that there's something about when someone's sitting across from you with their laptop doing the same thing that you're doing. It's like invigorating. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the social aspects, hanging around with my friends.
Nice. And then how often do you go on Writers Retreats?
Not enough. Not nearly enough.
Right?
A couple times a year, usually.
And would you recommend Writers Retreats?
Oh, absolutely. Get away from your husband, children, pets,
just
work.
Life in general, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to do the very quickie round. Uh-oh. So, yeah, what music genre do you listen to?
Alternative.
While writing as well?
Yes.
Okay. So, what's a perfect writing day look like to you?
I get words down.
That's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you choose as your avatar, mascot, or spirit animal?
The wolf. The wolf is definitely my spirit animal.
Ooh, nice.
For sure.
What is the most challenging part of writing the opposite sex?
Well, not to brag on myself, but I do write very strong males, convincing, very strong males. Mm-hmm. But so I don't really have a hard time with it. I know some writers do, and sometimes heroes come off as too feminine, but I don't have that problem. I think each one of my characters, I see eye to eye with them in a different way because they're very real to me. So I take each one at a time. But to be completely honest, I have more trouble with my females than I do with my males.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How do you select names for your characters?
Oh, they introduce themselves to me.
So they come with their names already?
Absolutely, yeah, most of the time. Sometimes I know it's a letter, and I have the example of a book that I have in my fantasy series. Every time I typed her name, it felt wrong. Mm-hmm. So she was telling me, you don't quite have it. Her name's Helena, actually, but it's spelled kind of funky. So every time I typed it, originally what I had before, I knew it was wrong. But usually they introduce themselves to me with their names. Like, I'll know their name and their job most of the time.
Okay. So, yeah, just already cooked in.
Yeah, and I don't ever change character names, so it really cracks me up when someone goes, I'm going to change his name because I don't like it. Because to me, that's like, they tell me what their names are, so I don't get that. It doesn't work for me.
Right. Perfect.
And finally, I get to talk to you guys about my answers to the retreat questions. So, my name is Sarah Gomez, as you might know, and I write romance, of course. And if you want to talk about like subgenre, I really write more in contemporary romance. What are you working on at the Writers Retreat? So I was working on a Christmas novella this time. And if you want to kind of lean more into the tropes and things, I was going for like the one bed trope. I was going for the grumpy sunshine trope. And hope to have it out by the end of the year. You know, and I can't help but, want the quintessential, like, snowed in, there's a lot of tension and energy between, the hero and the heroine and, just kind of seeing what happens. What is your favorite part of the Writers Retreat? For me, it's like everything all the other ladies have said. It's kind of that camaraderie. It's that being surrounded by people who are doing the exact same thing you are and who are just as passionate and eager about their writing and their stories as you are. People that just get you. It's your people. You are surrounded by all this creativity, all this great energy, and you just kind of ride that wave. And then, I can get into a groove a lot easier when I'm just surrounded by that. How often do you go on writers' retreats? Again, not often enough. 2 times a year usually, and it's usually with the same group of ladies. But we usually go around twice a year. If we can get away more than that, absolutely. I absolutely will. Would you recommend writers' retreats to others? Yes. For me, honestly, it's kind of become self-care because it's a place where I can go to kind of selfishly work on my things without the distraction, without the constant demands of like life or work or anything else that might monopolize my time away from some of the things I really want to do that's in my heart, and my outlet. And we sometimes are able to make time for it, but a lot of times it gets shelved because we have other priorities that we have to think about first. And when I'm at the writer's retreat, that's the thing. My writing becomes the priority, and that makes it so easy to kind of fall into that rhythm of writing and brainstorming and doing all these great things that I want to do. It's like taking all that energy of wanting to do the creative things, wanting to do all the really awesome things you want to do, and then just unleashing it within that 4 to 5 day period, right? So now we're on to the fun round. What music genre do you listen to while writing? I kind of follow in the same line as some of the other ladies, as with every book it changes, or with every writing piece that I give myself, it changes. For this one in particular, for the Christmas novella, you would think I would listen to Christmas music, but I haven't. If anything, it's more been like playlists of just like, okay, playlist of really hot sexual tension between like a CEO and you. Anything that is like maybe slowed or reverbed and just has the right vibe. It doesn't matter if I'm really understanding the words, as long as it's just got the right kind of rhythm and the right vibe that I'm going for. And I kind of just go with that. What's a perfect writing day look like to you? Usually getting up early in the morning, just because my body's conditioned to do that, and getting a cup of coffee first thing in the morning. I probably wouldn't even eat first. I would just go straight to work and just start wordsmithing everything that happened during the night. Because a lot of times I get inspiration while I'm dreaming, especially if I get in the right mode, and I want to write them down before I forget, or maybe I have some plot points or new words that I just came to me in the night that I want to make sure that I capture before they're just gone. What would you choose as your avatar, mascot, or spirit animal? I don't talk about it much on the podcast, just because it doesn't come up. But I really, 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 really love Hello Kitty. I know that might be kind of strange for some people, but just bear with me. She's adorable, and she believes in kindness, and she thinks you can never have too many friends, which is a philosophy I hold very dear to my heart. Like I really endeavor to be nice, and I kind of want to be just everyone's friend. I know that's not always possible, but I feel like I want to be that person because everyone needs that person in their life. So I always want to be the nice person and like the friendly guy, the friendly person. I want to be the Hello Kitty of my friends. What is the most challenging part of writing the opposite sex? For me, I think sometimes it's changing, turning on certain modes. Like I know a lot of times, like I'm female. So when I'm looking to write about males or, non-binary people, I know that there's sometimes like switching of the way you think. Like sometimes I'm very much communication based, and I know like other sexes might be more action based, or maybe a combination of the communication and action. So it's hard to sometimes switch that off of like, okay, I can't just be saying this. I have to be showing it as well, and sometimes showing is more impactful than just saying it. What's a great book that impacted you as a writer? So I know it's going to sound a little dated, but Sherilyn Kenyon wrote a book called Fantasy Lover. Gosh, like 15 years ago. Gosh, it might have been even longer than that, but I found it when I was like 16. I happened to just come across it in a bookstore, and I probably shouldn't have bought it, and I probably shouldn't have, read it. But this one was the one that really kind of sucked me in and said, this is the genre for you, or this is the genre you will always love for the rest of your life. And this is the one you want to write. How do you select names for your characters? With each book, it is different. Sometimes they do come to me and I just automatically know, oh, that is the name of the character. But sometimes I do research into it too. I like to have some kind of meaning behind my names. I don't like them to be just arbitrary, really. If I can put some kind of meaning behind the name, either the origin of it, what it means, or the context. Because my Christmas novella, of course, the guy's named Nick, but it's supposed to have a Christmassy feel to it, a magic feel. So, of course, I went with Nick because it felt right. So sometimes names just feel right, even if they don't come to me automatically. And that's about all I got. I don't have any book recommendations for this episode, but as I said in the beginning, if you're interested in following or checking out any of these ladies' books, be sure to check out the show notes. They will have links to their Amazon pages as well as their website. I have actually just added a buy me a coffee link. That just helps me with the podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, that's a great way to do it. I have so much more great things planned for you guys. And I cannot wait to see what other kind of interviews I can bring you. As always, be safe, stay healthy, and keep writing. Bye!